Let's have a look at some of the features, controls, and some of the shortcomings of this free Lovecraftian creature model. If you'd rather read, I've provided a link to a short and written manual in the description of this video. There are three main objects supplied in the Blender file. The first is the body, and it has a few modifiers. Obviously there's an armature modifier to make it move with the rig, and then there's a multi-resolution modifier. This is by default set off for viewport performance, and it's set to level 3 on the render preferences, and that gives you more detail when you render it out. There's also a mask modifier, and this is provided so that the back of the creature doesn't show through the patch of hairy tentacles on its back while it's being animated. We'll talk more about this later. The second object is this patch of tentacle stuff on the back of the creature, which I've called back hair. Again, it has modifiers. There's the armature modifier and again a multi-resolution modifier, which again is set to off for viewport performance and set to level 3 for rendering, which gives you this additional detail levels. Finally, we have the balls on the front of the creature's face, which I've called, strangely enough, nose balls, and each one has the same mesh, and they're just parented to a bone on the face. Let's talk about the rigging. The rig is created using the Rigify add-in that's supplied with Blender. If you'd like to know more about this process, there are lots of tutorials on the web that give you a lot more detail. Let's select the rig and put it into pose mode. You can see that on the right hand side under the item tab there's a panel which lets you select which part of the control layers of the rig are visible at any given time. So let's run through some of the controls. Let's start with the floating panel beside the head. It's not a standard Rigify feature, it's just a few, if you like, convenience controls that were added to control some functions. The first is labelled UI blink, and it's a blink control. If you move it down, the eyelids close in a blink, and when you move it back up, they open up again. This control works by driving action constraints on some of the more detailed controls in the face. The next control is labelled UI back hair, and this causes the hairy patch of tentacles on the back to become hidden. It also disables the mask modifier on the back, and it's quite handy, particularly if you're linking this model into another blend file. It gives you a quick way to lose the complexity of that batch of tentacles and concentrate on your animation without them, and also speed up the viewport display. The third control is labelled UI breathe, and as you move it from left to right, it provides a breathing sort of motion on the face of the creature. It's a cyclic animation so that you can move it from left to right and then jump right back to the start, and you can have a continuous breathing action. Let's turn our attention to the standard Rigify panel on the right hand side, and we'll look at some of the layers. Let's start with the spine layer. The spine layer has a number of controls. The first one I'll talk about is the torso control, and this provides the main control for the lower half of the body. It's one of the three main ground contact points for the character. A bit higher up we have two controls. One is labelled chest and the other one is labelled neck. The chest control pivots from the hips. That's the significant thing about this control. It's the best way to show full body movement, either tilting down or say swinging from left to right. The neck control probably should have been called shoulder control. It actually does a very similar thing to the chest control, except the pivot point is right in the middle of the shoulders. This is the control to rotate the shoulders or give motion to the top of the body without moving all the way down to the hips. The chest control can also be moved to stretch the body forward. Finally, there's the head control, and as you might expect, you can rotate the head from side to side, you can rotate it on the y-axis and also nod up and down with the x-axis. Let's turn off the spine layer and go to the face layer. I might also change the viewport mode to Eevee so that we can get a better view of the face while we have a look. On the main face layer, we have the standard Rigify eye control that lets you adjust where the creature is looking at. You can move it left to right. It's easy to move it a little bit in too much of an extreme manner, and then the eyes might not fit in the eyelids properly, but that can be adjusted if you have to do that with some of the secondary controls on the face. You can even move one eye at a time if you really want to do that. Then we have quite a lot of controls to control the expression of the face. And I think with this model, the best idea is to imagine that the whole face is covered with a mask that only moves slightly as the underlying features of the face move. All you can really see properly are the eyes, and as the other structures on the face move, small gestures on that stiff mask actually carry quite a large bit of meaning. I think that's the best way to animate this model. There's a nose control, which you can move just very slightly for sniffing or twitching movements, but it's very easy to go too far with that. The jaw motion is available, and again, it's something that you have to use in a subtle way. You can use the additional layers in the eye panel to get to more controls to make subtle adjustments on the expression of the face. For example, the brow controls can be moved to change the expression of the creature from angry to sad to surprised, and it is surprisingly effective. Small adjustments can be done to the eye and the blink, the cheek and around the mouth area. If you really want finer control, there's a third face layer which provides many more controls to manipulate the face muscles. Let's talk arms and legs. This creature has a rather odd collection of those. If we look at the left arm first, it's rigged in a standard Rigify way and typically would be used in FK mode so that the arm stays held close to the chest as the body moves. For fairly small movements of the arm, the back hair is articulated to move with the arm movement. The arm can also be switched to IK mode using the standard Rigify controls. The character has two limbs that function as legs. The right hand one can be selected and is normally used in IK mode, as most legs would be. It has the standard foot control, and as well as that it has the Rigify heel control, which lets you rock the foot back up on the heel, which is helpful in a walking mode. The angle of the foot can be manipulated in a number of different ways. The tentacle on the left-hand side of the body can also be used as a leg, and it's rigged also with the Rigify leg control, so that it can be used in IK mode to move the tentacle around and use it to support the weight of the body. And it also has a heel control, which can be used to rock the heel of the tentacle up off the ground for, again, for walking purposes. There are a couple of walk cycle actions that have been included in the file, and I'll talk about them in a short while. This creature has a lot of tentacles. If we select the tentacle control layer, there are 9 separate elements with a rig. There's the one on the right shoulder, one on the face, there's the 2 toes on the right hand leg, there's the tip of the left hand tentacle foot, and the 3 toes. All of these have simple Rigify tentacle controls, except for the first of the toes, which has an IK rig, just so that it deforms properly as the creature bends from the hip. The tentacles on the back of the creature have simple deformed bones configured, which can be animated if you really have to, but they're primarily there just to provide secondary motion of the tentacles as the creature moves. There's a fingers control layer which gives you controls for the left hand, that if you scale them it allows the fingers to curl, or if you rotate them, rotates the fingers at the base. At the side of the hand there's a spreader control to spread or slightly rotate the palm of the hand. If you need the creature to wag his tail, there is a tail control layer that lets you control the tail as a whole or section by section. Included in the blend file are a number of standard actions. If we go to the animation tab and pull down the actions, you can see there's a couple of walk cycles. They're both limping walks. One is fast, one is somewhat slower. If I select it to demonstrate, you can see it gives a couple of steps of a progressive walk cycle. I've also included a couple of actions for some of the tentacles on the creature to give them a slow waving motion, just so that the creature can have some appearance of motion while he's standing there. This creature has a lot of dangly bits and they really need to move, wave as the creature's walking. Now, a few years ago I wrote an add-on to help with this called RigFlex. The model works perfectly well without it if you'd like to, but it is a free add-on. I've included a link in the description of this video. It provides a simple way of having some soft body motion in armatures. If you download and install the add-on in the usual way, there'll be a RigFlex tab on the right hand side as soon as you select the armature in pose mode. If you follow that link that I gave, you can find out all about the add-on, but for the purposes of using it with this model, it's only a matter of selecting the frame range that you want this action to occur and then pressing the bake. It may take a few minutes, but it runs the model through its paces and generates keyframes for additional bones in the body to provide that secondary soft motion as the creature walks. Once it's finished, these keyframes are baked in and you can run the animation through its paces as much as you like. If you'd like to remove this added action, or if you need to change the animation, you simply select the free bake button and that additional soft body action is removed. Then once you've changed the animation, you just bake it again. With Blender, it's pretty common to keep a character like this in its own blend file and then link the character into a scene file to do the actual animation and interact with other characters. I'll just demonstrate by closing this file and opening a brand new Blender scene, and we're just going to link in our creature by going File, Link, and navigating to the blend file where the creature lives, drilling down to the collections and selecting the creature collection. The character appears as a single instanced object, and in the Blender 2.8 series you can make a proxy of the armature by selecting the object relations and make proxy, and we select the rig from the original file. What this does is generate a local copy of the rig that allows us to animate the model even though all the details are being loaded from that original creature file. The armature actions from the original file are also still available as linked actions. Note that if you want to use the RigFlex add-on that I talked about before, this works quite well with linked characters Again, you would just have to select the rig and bake the secondary motion over the selected frame range, and that works fine on a linked character. Well, I think that just about covers it. I hope you find a good use for this Lovecraftian creature.